This is my presentation on the lab design ideas for SUNY Canton's upcoming Cybersecurity Lab. Well, what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is the protection of cyberspace. This is where information is transmitted from computer to computer. Cybersecurity analysts are finding new ways to protect big companies and users from malicious hackers that are trying to steal sensitive information, such as credit cards or passwords. We use cybersecurity to be able to defend everyone. If some hacker got a hold of a big company's information or a user's information, the results could be catastrophic. We need a cybersecurity lab to be able to hack legally. We can't just go and practice willy-nilly on random users' computers. We need a safe space to be able to do this. This safe space protects our main network from sending out worms or viruses that could potentially be tragic to the campus's network. This lab, since it is a safe space, will allow us to practice new techniques without the worry of breaking mission-critical machines on campus. Most campus computers do not have the right operating system that we need to practice on, such as Linux or older Windows systems. By using different networking equipment, us the students will be able to gain knowledge of a wide variety of switches, hubs, and routers made by different companies with different standards. The lab should be quite big, as well as multiple rooms to allow many students to practice at once, as well as other students working on different labs. These labs should be equipped with different networking segments to isolate all the hacks and exploits being performed room to room, as well as isolating the main SUNY Canton network. These rooms will need to be able to hold specific hardware. This will be discussed later on in the video. This first room here is equipped with computers, laptops, Wi-Fi adapters, servers, routers, and firewalls. This is the main hacking room that will accommodate most of the activities that need to take place for the students to learn penetration testing and defending. This room is segmented off from the network, so make sure no viruses or worms escape. This room will be a dedicated room to learning about the security of cellular devices as well as Internet of Things. They pose a security risk to our world and will ever be growing. This room is segmented off from the network as well as the other one to make sure no viruses or worms escape. The last room here will be dedicated to SUNY Canton's virtual lab. It is there to accommodate a lot of people and be able to connect to virtual computers and cloud computers. This will be very beneficial since we will be able to learn and understand how cloud computing works, and how to protect and attack it. This room is segmented off from the network, just like the past two, to be able to make sure no viruses or worms escape. When it comes to hardware inside of a cybersecurity lab, there needs to be a lot of it, as well as a wide variety of it. We need servers to try and gain access to, desktops and laptops to perform hacking and defending, firewalls to be able to learn about how traffic is blocked and uses access control, routers, switches, and hubs to be able to connect computer to computer. Mobile devices and Internet of Things are security risks, so we need to know how to attack and defend them. First, we need to start off with the main hardware that will help us control everything that we do. The server is a big portion of a lab since it can run whatever we want, such as a website, a DHCP server, or even a DNS server. The server needs to be able to handle workloads that will stress the machine greatly, as well as being able to run different operating systems. Another main set of servers needs to be accommodated for a virtual lab. That way the students can practice not only on physical computers, but as well as ones in the cloud. To be able to connect to the servers, you need desktops and laptops. These devices should be equipped with Intel i5 CPUs, since those will be able to do everything that we need to learn how to hack. The CPUs also need to be virtualization compatible, since in the lab we may need to run virtual machines to achieve things. We will also need 16 GB of RAM to be able to run a significant amount of processes concurrently while learning the ins and outs of cybersecurity. Both laptops and desktops need to be equipped with Wi-Fi and Ethernet. For the Wi-Fi, you need to be able to use monitor mode and promiscuous mode, as that will be needed to perform any Wi-Fi sniffing attacks. The adapter will also need to be able to run in AP mode, which we can use software such as Mana Toolkit. Finally, the desktops need to be accommodated with 2 monitors. This allows for a boost in productivity since we can see more things at one time with 2 monitors than we can with 1 monitor. The desktops, laptops, and servers need different operating systems on them, Some newer and some older ones have different uses and vulnerabilities. One big one that we will need is access to Kali Linux. This is a hacking distro of Linux loaded with all the tools that we need to learn how to penetration test and how each tool is used to protect against them. We will also need the biggest used Windows operating system, Windows 10. Finally, we will need both Windows and Linux operating systems for servers. Inside of the lab, there needs to be routers, of course, to be able to not only connect to the internet, but also connect to other computers on the same network, whether it be wired or wireless. For the wireless routers, they need to support IEEE 802.11ac standard of Wi-Fi, as well as 2.4 and 5.0 GHz radio frequencies. These routers will also need to support WPA2, as is the most common form of wireless encryption right now. Not only do we need those routers, there needs to be funds allocated for the upcoming IEEE's 802.11ax Wi-Fi standard that will be released in the next year or so. These routers will be very beneficial to the students since it will allow them to learn about the new technology. The last requirement for a router is that the students need older routers as well. We need to learn how to defend older technology for if we were to work in a company with older tech. There are two types of switches that the lab will need. A managed switch that can set up network segments and set up VLANs, as well as unmanaged switches. There also is a need for hubs, since again, if we work with a company with older tech, we need to learn how to protect it. You may ask why a cybersecurity lab might need cell phones. Well, they are a huge part of today's society since they are portable and easy to use. Since everyone has one, they can cause a big problem, since they may store banking information or even credit card information using Apple Pay or Android Pay. Not only that, but if there's a big company that we work for that gives cell phones to their employees to use, we need to know how to protect them by using software like Microsoft Intune in case a phone gets lost or stolen or hacked, since it might contain sensitive information about the company. These devices need to be a mix of iPhone and Android of various models and manufacturers for Android, since some phones have other vulnerabilities that others don't. Internet of Things has become a huge part of today's world. People can now sit on their couch and talk to a piece of tech across the room, such as Amazon Alexa or Google Home, and tell it to preheat the oven for us. There are smart fridges that can scan the fridge for what food we have and look on the internet for recipes for what we can make with what food that we have. They become a big security risk, and the developers don't really care that much about security, only about convenience for the consumer. We need to understand how they are a security risk and how to fix them. As mentioned earlier, there needs to be servers to allow students to connect to the cloud. The cloud is becoming very useful to people since they don't need to go out and buy a $1,000 computer if they only need to use it for a few days or a week. You can use a monthly subscription of a cloud computer for your temporary needs. We need to be able to learn how this works, as well as security protocols and how to protect the cloud, especially when it comes to storage in the cloud. We store data on the cloud so that we can access it from anywhere with ease. As future cybersecurity people, we need to be able to protect that data on the cloud and in transmission. The virtual lab may comprise of servers running virtual machines on them, but they may be accessed via a physical computer or by another virtual computer. The servers need to be able to handle a big load, since multiple people will be using them at once. Also, these virtual computers must have the ability to be segmented off or be able to talk to other computers on the virtual network. Using a virtual lab also makes recovery a lot easier. So, let's say you hack a Windows machine and you corrupt the entire system. You can easily recover from it by using a snapshot of the virtual machine before you started the hack. Cybersecurity policies for labs are very different than just a cybersecurity policy for the campus. There's a lot more flexibility in what you are allowed to do, such as installing worms and backdoors and turning off antivirus, hacking passwords, breaking into Wi-Fi routers, and even sniffing the network in the lab. But there needs to be limitations and consequences for doing what is not told of you to do. You must sign a legal agreement. This is because the college cannot be responsible for your actions if you do so choose to participate in criminal activity. If you do commit a crime, then you will be charged in a court of law as well as removed from the class. Anything you learn in the cybersecurity class may not be used outside of the lab unless you have written permission by the party that you are trying to practice on. So, let's say you go home for break. You want to show your parents or friends that you can gain access to the Wi-Fi without the password. Then, you need written permission from them so that you cannot be held liable for criminal activity. since they consented. When you are in the lab, testing an exploit or trying to hack a router, you may not attempt to go outside of the network segment designated for that lab. If you do this, you may gain access to things you are not allowed to, or even release a virus en masse on the network that could corrupt every computer on the network. If you do so, then appropriate action will be taken on you from the college and, if needed, escalated to law enforcement. During your time in that course, you may not try to hack anything unless it is authorized by the professor. That means you can't just show up at a lab because you wanted to test an exploit you learned about on YouTube. You must have prior authorization to even attempt that exploit. If you break these policies, you will be immediately suspended from the class until an investigation has occurred. Thank you.